Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whenever you are, because you might not be watching this live, but in the future, we're live here from Groningen at the Odyssey Momentum headquarters. As you can see, it is now pitch black outside, and we are here with Rutger van Zoudam and a whole bunch of people on the call to talk about a fossil-free future.
Yes.
We've got our challenge leads in the call, of course. That is Michiel Sintony and Axel Eriksson from Vattenfall. Good to see you in the call. And we've actually got two challenges within this challenge, right? Two tracks.
Yes.
One is about smart meter data and one is about balancing the grid. And ironically, they're deeply interconnected, or at least that's my feeling. You could do one without the other, but why makes it much? Why am I explaining this when we've got the experts on the call? I don't know. If I may, I'd love to start with challenge lead Michiel Sintony.
Hi, Nick.
Vattenfall, I mean, fossil-free future sounds impressive, but actually that's not the full title of the ambition, right? It's fossil-free future in a generation.
Exactly. We put a timeline on it, and we want to do that. So I want to raise my kids, or when my kids get married, I want to have them living in a fossil-free future.
And one generation, is there, I mean, that sounds like a deadline or a timeline. What does a generation mean from Vattenfall's perspective?
So if you give birth today, then the girl or boy is raised and give birth again. That will be one generation.
Wow, that's actually not that far, right? I mean, that could be as little as today. Let's be reasonable, 20 years plus 40 years from now. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, fossil free. That's a heck of a goal, especially for an energy company who, is in the business of making energy. Yeah. If I may, I'm going to ask you about the smart meter data challenge. Smart meters, in many parts of the world, particularly here in the Netherlands and I assume Sweden, have been around a while. So what's the, I hate the word problem, but what's the thing here that you're trying to solve that makes it a challenge worthy of such collaboration?
So yeah, for the four last past years, for the last four past years, it's really hard. Like
it's okay. We're not live. We can cut and edit this. Oh wait, we are live. Don't worry.
We are live.
Welcome to my world. Take a breath. It's okay.
Yeah. It was a long and exhausting weekend and really fun to do. What we saw is that we did a lot in improving technology and stuff like that. And then we looked at our core metrics of the energy system, what the smart meter and the smart meter data is for the western part of Europe, where smart meters are already active in. And we have a really good system in the Netherlands and in Sweden, but with new emerging technologies, we can even improve it and really change the way people think about energy and the way we can help people and also improve their behavior on using energy. And with that, we need a core metric to help them. And we now see in the current smart meter infrastructure that we are having a delay in the system, and if we can go to real time, we can really help people becoming fossil free in one generation.
And the delay is like once a day, right? You can read the smart meters, quote unquote, once each day, right?
Exactly.
So when you move forward to, let's say, near real time or real time even, in your vision, what would that unlock? How would our lives change because of that?
Yeah, we have something really simple examples. For example, when you forget to put down or to turn off your lights or put down your heating system when you're leaving the house, as such an example. But we also saw what happened with internet and with smartphones. So if you enable real-time data, people will be will become much more creative on creating applications that help that fossil-free future that we strive through.
So in that regard, sorry, Nick, I guess the challenge has two main sides is, on the one hand, you want to increase the accuracy and let's say without the lag you have now, right, without the delay. And on the other hand, I hear a clear opening up mission.
Yeah. Exactly, and what we currently see, we can learn a lot about the infrastructure that we have in the Netherlands and in Sweden, but we see also the German market is now opening up for smart meter, and there is a smart meter data infrastructure architect. But with new technologies that we have at today compared to what we had in 2002, 2003, it's a completely different world. So we can do much more today than we could in those days, and this is where I really want to challenge the industry to go outside the box, even outside the Earth, and go into the galaxy of momentum to really search for really new solutions and new ways of thinking. And what we saw with the teams that were in my track and in my challenge, they were really enabling the wow factor in really approaching the problem in a different way, and I was really impressed by what the teams delivered.
That's awesome, and we've talked before. Obviously, this is not your first Odyssey rodeo, and I think an example of where you're saying, we're taking inspiration from the internet when that was created and mobile phones were created. Nobody really knew what would come. There was all the stuff that we could imagine, but it was all the stuff that we never imagined. And I guess from an energy company, whether it's Vattenfall or any of them in the world. At some point in the past, nobody imagined that potentially every house or every object could become not only an energy user, but actually a supplier, a producer of energy. And so the grid wasn't necessarily built for that. Smart data meters, etc., are kind of, historically one way. How much are you using, but not necessarily how much are you giving back, and. So it's kind of like that level of thinking again is what you're trying to be open for. Of here's the things we see. What about the stuff we don't see? Let's make sure we don't write that out by accident. Is that right?
Exactly. So we want to create a possibility of new opportunities.
Wow.
Really good. That's a really good one.
Meta level thinking. I love it. We've also got on this call the winner of the Smart Meter Challenge, and that is Thomas Medemer from Bencom. Welcome, Thomas.
Good evening.
And welcome back, indeed. Not your first rodeo with Odyssey either, right?
No, this is our third one in a row. Each year the majority of our team is always jumping to start the Odyssey again, and previous to hackathons, and we always have a whole team of people who want to join, and unfortunately I can't bring everybody from the office, but a lot of people always want to join because everybody knows how awesome this weekend is to experience.
Fabulous, yeah, and of course with Momentum being a digital thing, from our perspective, you could be more than welcome in the future to bring all of the company, but maybe that's not smart for the company because they have to keep it running. So can you tell us a little bit about why this challenge and what you built this weekend to deserve a winning place?
All right. The trigger for us is always consumer centered, and because we always feel that the consumer needs to be in control of their own data, whatever data it is. In this situation, the smart meter data. And as Rutger already mentioned in the start, like he quoted smart, and I kind of agree with that, because so smart are the smart meters not these days. And we want to improve the smart meters to make them really smart. So that's the goal of the weekend, and to unlock all the extra possibilities of what you can do with the data, but also basically the simple things that currently the smart meter is running in a delay of 24 hours. So the consumer is not interested in 24-hour-old data when you're trying to figure out your energy transition goals, and to play around with it doesn't motivate you. So that's a big part of it. Also, that sometimes meters can get errors. Well, nobody is noticing that. Those kind of issues need to be resolved to facilitate the energy transition. Also, the local initiatives come way better forward in our solution, that you, for example, you want to make use of your national provider such as Vattenfall, but you also have a local initiative nearby and you want to make use of that as well. And then you can combine those things, and that's just really hard now, and that's also factors we solved in our solution. And we're going to work with a gateway that we add onto the old meters, and in the new meters you can just adjust the protocol to that gateway protocol. And the big advantage of that is that we don't have to replace all smart meters we already placed in the past few years, which cost in the Netherlands already 1 billion euros. So that's not something you want to tell the end consumers, let's replace them all again, please.
Wow, no, definitely not.
And so we want to extend the lifetime of the current placed smart meters.
And you've created a way that appears to be possible. You've created your concept, actually proof of concept, minimum viable product, whatever you want this weekend. But contrary to your previous Odyssey experiences, Momentum was not about the tech and just the MVP, minimum viable product. We said, how would you go about taking this out into the real world through some sort of pilot project with, of course, your challenge leads, hopefully. Can you tell us a little bit about what you see in the upcoming months of getting this into reality?
Well, the goal is to get it actually a small pilot up and running within 6 months. I think it's already quite a long time. I think we can do that quicker, but let's set the goal to that. And then we start with just 100 households where you 50-50, you do 50 with a new smart meter and 50% you do with the old smart meter with the add-on, and then take it from there. And that's not that difficult to make it happen because we actually build it already from A to Z, including consumer's permission, which is registered on the blockchain that you can see what the consumer gave permission to. So we already have the whole layout is already here. We just need some smart meters connected and take it from there and fill the database with relevant data. So that's the smart goal. And then from there on, I think we can scale it up extremely quick to maybe the next pilot of 25,000 households, and then world domination for the pilot.
And what is the challenge with this first pilot? What would you like to prove, where, let's say, stakeholders can join in on this, and that enables them to make the decision to go from the first 100 to 25,000, so to say?
Well, in this market, the grid operator is really an important player because they are owner for the smart meter for the consumer. They're responsible for it, and they always have a lot of privacy laws they have to be taken into account. And we have proven that it's possible. Now let's do the proof in the pudding method, and let's show it works for 100 households. And if you can show that, then there's no limit, because if it works for 100 households, it will also work for. You can add a zero number and another zero behind it, and it won't stop it. Yeah. And well, for example, today, because we heard the announcement this morning already, we already been contacted a lot of people. Michiel also, we immediately talked about it, and even grid operators already called me like, how can we help now, and what legal input you need today from me. Wow. So that went quite quick already.
That's very good. So and Thomas, I mean, this sounds like a pretty critical piece of software in a crucial infrastructure. How do you ensure that we are not completely dependent on you guys?
On us as the Bancom group, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, what is your open source strategy in this?
No, the project will be open source, and we welcome everybody to join to improve our project, because we need everybody. Everybody can help, is open to help. So if somebody has input for us, feel free to contact Michiel, either me, and we take it from there. And that is no limitation. We can. That's also what's proven in the hackathon, the old school hackathon name about the Momentum. What we proved in the last 49 hours is that we. 49 hours, that we worked with other teams, and we couldn't have done it without all the input of all the stakeholders. For example, Saturday evening, we noticed a legal topic that would have completely floored us if we didn't know that, and we could immediately work around it, and that input is valuable. So it's an open source project, and feel free to join, and the developments are coming.
Best way to move forward, Thomas. Great.
Well done. And what I'd love to hear there is, I'm famous for saying if I get asked to help organize a hackathon or something, I don't care about the hackathon. I want to know what your strategy on Monday is, because hackathons are just the start of a process, not the end. And to hear that literally the next day, cool stuff is happening. Michiel, if it's okay with you, I'm going to move over to Axel for a moment, so that we can talk about the balanced grid, and then we'll come back to talk about the broader perspective. Axel, welcome.
Thank you very much.
You were leading the perspective of balancing the grid, and I suspect for the average citizen this means nothing and doesn't make much sense until you explain it. Can you give us an example of why balancing the grid is important?
Sure. I'll do my best. So basically, in the power system today, all electricity demand and generation has to be completely in balance. So whenever you turn on Odyssey over the weekend, there will be a big power spike, and some other kind of power has to come in to meet that. And this will, of course, increase when we have more electric cars, etc., in the system. And what's happening, because we want a fossil-free grid, we add more renewables. The spikes will also happen on the other side, on the generation side. And both of these events means that we will need more resources to balance these with each other. And so it happens that, of course, there are a lot of different assets around the grid which we could use for providing this flexibility. Right now, it's only big power station that is used to do this balancing. But what if we could use all the available assets from households or offices, etc., to help provide this balance? This is what the challenge is all about.
And in your country, Sweden, that is also, I think, increasingly a challenge, because you've added so much renewables to the equation, right?
Yeah, so you're right. So the problem is that the power system was designed to be quite stable, because there was not many changes happening. And in Sweden, we often use hydropower for doing this balancing, but the hydropower stations are, of course, not designed that way. So if we do too much balancing like that, they break. So we have to figure out new ways of providing this balancing when adding more wind power, etc.
Yeah. And just for anybody who's watching this now live or in the future, hi to you too, who might be wondering why does renewables cause a problem on the other side? It's actually quite simple, right? Wind is less predictable than burning stuff or running water, and of course sunlight doesn't happen every day, or rather, hopefully it happens every day, but for only half of it, and in Sweden, not even half of it for half the year.
But the other half of the year is extra, right?
Yeah, exactly, and then even that's not predictable because of things like clouds. So, the holy grail of going fossil-free actually causes some challenges, which is what makes balancing the grid right now a really important challenge to get fixed, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're completely right, Nick.
Fabulous. And so we're here with, of course, the winner, or rather, I should say, two winners of your track Balancing the Grid. Can you tell us why you didn't go for one?
Yeah, so this is of course really difficult to pick only one winner when we felt that both of the teams have a really good understanding of the complexity of the challenge, and because this is of course a rather deep problem on very many different layers, both from a technical and societal perspective, and both the teams showed that they could really understand what kind of processes were in place or needed to be in place, what kind of stakeholders needed to be involved, and both managed to design very good pilots or rather proof of concepts, maybe I should say, that could actually solve these kind of issues. So that's why we decided to pick both of them, because they complement each other very well, I think, in terms of where they are active and which kind of stakeholders they can get on board.
Yeah, and of course, from our perspective, it doesn't matter whether you picked one or two. It's just our recommendation to you. If there's a clear winner, run with it, because it's not, as I said, it's not just about this weekend. It's about what comes next, and it's double the work for you to take on two teams. But if they're so connected, like you say, and you're prepared to make that commitment, then that's just even more.
If they can complement each other.
Go for it.
Go for it.
So I'm going to look at my script here and say let's bring up Thomas from Intellect EU. You had a heavy weekend just like the rest of us. Can you tell us what was it that you saw in this challenge and then built that has resulted to this position?
Yeah, sure. So I think Axel stated the problem quite well. So we have this need of flexibility. We want to get rid of the big fossil fueled power plants, but those are the ones who provide today the flexibility. So we should replace them. And then we looked at, actually, we have houses with electric cars, electric heating. Everybody has a lot of flexibility at home, but there's just no way we can use it on the market. There's no way to monetize this. So our goal was to look how can we bring all these households, all this flexibility that just sit box inside, and bring that to the market. Of course, it's not just possible to use current markets and processes to onboard suddenly millions of assets. The processes today are not scalable. the trust model doesn't work that way. System operators have personal connections today with their flexibility assets. They won't have a personal relationship with every household. So we look like, how can we make the onboarding as easy as possible? How can we make all the processes to sell this flexibility, enable this flexibility automatic, but how can we keep the trust between the provider and the TSO? So we worked out,
So how did you manage all of that?
Yeah, so of course, we didn't reinvent the wheel. So we weren't the first to tackle that problem. We built further on existing technology stacks, for instance, the Energy Web Foundations, but we saw that there were still big pieces missing. And especially this trust factor I mentioned a few times, this is really the missing piece. So I think we and also the other teams saw this, and we kind of came up with the same solution, but on different time frames in the market. So still the same idea, but a different way we worked it out. So we use a kind of reputation score that's stored on chain, and that score is updated after every time period to deliver flexibility. And in that way, the system operator or other parties who need this flexibility are sure that the assets they contract actually can deliver the flexibility, because we have a transparent way to indicate that it is a well-behaving asset, and assets that don't well behave will get a punishment, lower scores. So yeah.
So you're making assets personal. in a way, you give them a reputation. That is, I think, a very interesting concept.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well done, Thomas. I'm going to move over to the folks at Startblock for also being, I guess, co-winner of this. Hello, sir. Anton, how are you?
Yeah, hello. I'm not an Anton. I'm Grigory, but I'm also a representative of Startblock.
Sorry.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. Not a problem.
Forgot to update my notes there. Grigory, can you tell us a little bit about what it was Startblock Online saw in this challenge and how you, or what you built to solve it?
So, as Axel said, that there is a problem in the market that only a small part of potential users can take part in an energy market. And our goal was to propose a system who can incentivize users to take part, which can give an opportunity to end users, to households, to take part on, in our case, in demand response market. So that's why we propose a system, a platform with a rating system and transparent income distribution among these users based on this rating.
How do you get to a rating of that user?
So our goal was to incentivize these users to fulfill their obligation, and the idea is the following: if user was able to fulfill his obligation, which were given on this demand response event, he will gain a rating. So during this demand response event, if he wasn't able, he should distribute his rating among the users who were able to fill his gap.
So you are also quite interested, I guess, in the other challenge, the smart meter data infrastructure, to get all that information as well.
Yes. I suppose the smart meter challenge and bound the grid challenge are connected. So if we want to make a step to a full decentralized grid, we need a smart meter to collect data directly from a user and so on.
So how do you think Vattenfall will and other energy companies will benefit in participating in this kind of solution, what you are proposing?
So our solution was just a transition step. It's not a full decentralization of such system. So in our solution, we just need an aggregator who can collect the data from all systems to build a load profile of system and collect information from data meters. Our system, it's a self-manageable system. So we give an opportunity to users to come to agreement between this decentralized group of households, for example. But we still need some information from an aggregator.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Nice.
So Vattenfall becoming an, I don't want to say important middleman, but still having an important role in this whole new system, I guess.
Yeah, their clients are data providers, and they need to work with those aggregators.
Exactly. Gregory, thanks, and obviously congratulations to all three teams for their winning spaces. Michiel, if I can come back to you for a moment. It's all very well producing these proofs of concepts, these MVPs, but you know as anybody other, until it gets out into the real world, it makes for a fun weekend, but to get to a fossil-free future within a generation, I mean, that's a mammoth task because, quite frankly, Vattenfall, you're a great Swedish, European-based company, but there's many energy companies all over the planet, and they've got to get on board with this too, otherwise you can't achieve the goal, right?
Exactly, and that is why mass collaboration is so important in sharing the knowledge and sharing the commitment to hack the climate crisis and not only flatten the curve of COVID, but flatten the curve of the huge problem that we are facing with the climate, and hopefully with this we can have a reach out to the rest of the world to join us in this climate crisis that we are moving into, or we already in. So yeah, and Rutger also visited our R&D department, our lab last February. That was one of the last trips that we could make with COVID, and there we showed him how hard we work on this climate crisis, even with the fish population.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, Nick. So if you look at the responsibility a company can feel about being part of an ecosystem. And we talked about Nature 2.0 just before this, talking about reintegration with nature. Well, I think the folks from Nature 2.0 can learn from this example because, and I recommend people look it up, Vattenfall has a accelerator, where they actually simulate underwater currents to see how the salmon will swim, because they are responsible for the biodiversity in the river in which they have the hydropower plants, and they're not the only ones. Also other companies have that in that same river, and if that salmon doesn't swim upstream, it doesn't spawn and the population can die.
And that's a problem.
And that's a problem, because of course many other species are connected to that. So in that regard, I was hugely impressed by what they are doing, because with that responsibility and that piece of R&D that's being done right there, they not only ensure, let's say, the energy supply, but also to do that in a way that preserves the nature for generations to come. And I think that's the interesting thing we can definitely learn from companies like Vattenfall, is this integrated thinking. And it's not just EU rules or whatever kind of obligations that there are from a legal perspective, but when you actually visit, Stefan and I had the opportunity and we learned such a great deal, and it also takes a different perspective on these challenges, right? Because if there are multiple energy companies in one river, then again you need this collaboration, and nature is a stakeholder.
Only one of them, in this case Vattenfall, doing their very best isn't going to make the difference enough.
Exactly.
And Michiel, that I mean, for me, that's the one that gives me goosebumps. Is that you're a very serious player in the market. You're setting this example. You're inviting these folks to come along. I want to talk just briefly about this pilot phase that we're heading towards. Odyssey Ignite is part of that, of course, but you set your own path. you're saying we need these folks to come. What other stakeholders do you need? Who are you looking for? How can they get involved? Because of course not everybody can jump on right now. You're not ready for that. But if you don't get the right people in the next, I don't know, 2, 3, 6 months, then a year from now also is going to be hard.
Yeah, so for the pilot project, we hope that we can engage with the Dutch stakeholders. We already put out a massive input on that and a lot of work on that in the last 1.5 years. And also we let them join into creating this challenge. And for the future, if we look at, for example, the German market, we would love to connect with the people that are responsible for the German grid and the German rollout of the smart meter. So why not learn from hopefully the best in class? If you can have the opportunity, why not join, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be horrific to think about any country in the world implementing stuff that we have already proven is good proven product, but not suitable for the future. This is their chance to basically leapfrog and maybe even overtake you by getting that advantage. But that's innovation, exactly. That's life.
It's a next level for a complete industry, what's being proposed here. And I think we should embrace that as the Netherlands, but also in Europe in a broader perspective. Because if you only think about the amount of startups that can build on top of such an infrastructure, it is insane, and that can definitely happen in the EU. And very happy to that Vattenfall is leading that way.
And just like Michiel said very eloquently, this is creating the opportunity to create opportunities. So I think that
does it.
There's nothing more I can add on top of that. We're just about out of time for this. If you have no idea what we were talking about fossil-free future within 1 generation with the challenge leads from Vattenfall and the 3 winning teams. Congratulations again to Bencom, Intellect EU and Startblock Online. Great job. I hope you have fun celebrating. And as we've already said, this is not the end, it's a beginning, and you've already started today with that hard work. So on behalf of children of the future, I guess, I wish you all a lot of luck in achieving that goal. And of course, if I or we can help, please do let us know. Michiel gave a shout out there if you can help with this pilot program, if you're in the Netherlands or particularly Germany. And I guess if I'd have asked Axel, he would have said, we need some Swedish people too. Of course, then find them, they're available. LinkedIn works, and make a little part of history happen. We're going to be back in, I think, 5-6 minutes, where we will move on from talking about this stuff to one of the follow-up finales for this evening. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.